As a student in high school, I know what it's like to have to do lots of homework for complicated classes. But what if that homework for geometry or that science project causes you to stay up later than usual? The one thing teachers and school officials always tell students to do is get a good night's sleep. A study from the National Sleep Foundation shows that teens need an average of 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night to work efficiently in school and to be able to do their best work. This is why I believe that teachers should give less homework so students can get more sleep and do their best work in class. It's also recommended that high school students should participate in extracurricular activities to help boost their college applications, help develop life skills, and better themselves. On average, a majority of extracurricular activities and sporting events last 2 to 4 hours a day. If a student involved in extracurricular activities has to do a lot of homework when they come home from a sporting event or club meeting, the homework they have takes away the little bit of time they have for other things, especially sleep. In a 2014 poll of high school teachers reported by the LA Times, on average, high school students are given 3.5 hours of homework a night. Therefore, if a student participates in a sporting event or extracurricular activity that lasts 3 hours and doesn't get home from school until 7 p.m. and has to do another 3.5 hours of homework for a science project, that student won't be done until 10:30 p.m. Add in another hour to get ready for bed, and that student won't be going to bed until 11:30 p.m. If that student has to wake up at 6:30 a.m. to get ready for school, that student will only get 7 hours of sleep, which is an hour below the minimum amount of recommended sleep the student needs to be efficient in class. Sometimes extracurricular activities start later and therefore end later, which means that a student will go to bed even later and get even less hours of sleep. I know what you're thinking. What about a student that doesn't participate in extracurricular activities? Well, let's say a student gets home from school at 4 p.m. That student has dinner when they get home from school, which is over at 5 p.m. Afterwards, that student has 3.5 hours of homework for history and then an hour of chores. And by then it's 9:30 p.m. Finally, an hour of getting ready for bed, and that student gets to bed at 10:30 p.m. When the student gets up at 6:30 a.m., they barely meet the minimum amount of recommended hours of sleep. We haven't even included extra time for errands and appointments, which would cause the student to go to bed at an even later time. So what's the solution to this predicament of students not getting enough sleep? It's simple, really. Teachers just have to give less homework. I know this seems like a bad idea, but believe me, it's all for the best. If teachers cut back on the homework by just an hour and a half, that leaves an extra hour and a half for sleep and higher efficiency in school and classes. It also means less homework for teachers to grade. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against homework entirely. I'm only against having too much homework. Homework is helpful because it helps students study and be prepared for tests and classwork. But too much can be harmful to students because they won't get enough hours of sleep. So let's add up the hours with the hour and a half deduction. The student participating in a sporting event until 7 p.m. and does 2 hours of homework, which ends at 9 p.m., and the hour to get ready means the student will be in bed by 10 p.m. Sure, that's still pretty late, but the student will get more hours of sleep and as a result be more efficient in class. Now we'll add up the hours for the student that isn't involved in extracurricular activities. The student that isn't involved in extracurricular activities comes home at 4 p.m. and eats dinner until 5 p.m. 2 hours for homework and 1 hour for chores makes it 8 p.m. Then after an hour of getting ready for bed, it's 9 p.m. and a perfect 9.5 hours of sleep for the student to be efficient in class. In conclusion, the best thing to do to solve the lack of sleep problem for teenagers is for teachers to give less homework. If teachers give less homework, it means that students will have more time for sleep and teachers won't have as much work to grade. Students will be able to work better in class and they won't fall asleep in class either. Students will also be able to participate in extracurricular activities and sporting events without having to worry about homework causing them to stay up late at night. That, my friends, is how we solve the problem of students' lack of sleep.